2 bullets tore through the penthouse window at 2:47 a.m. Min-jun's body hit the floor, blood spreading across Italian marble like spilled wine. The woman screaming his name? His fake wife. The contract bride who'd mocked him for 7 months straight. The same woman who'd just discovered the truth. He wasn't gay. He'd never been gay. And the men with guns? They came because someone found out Min-jun Park had finally fallen in love. But 9 months earlier, nobody saw this coming. I married a stranger for $200,000. 2 years, separate bedrooms, 0 touching. He needed a beard. I needed to save my mother. Simple transaction. She thought she knew exactly who Min-jun Park was. Cold, untouchable, gay. She was wrong about everything. Picture this: Seoul, luxury law office, 47th floor, pen scratching paper, traffic humming below through floor-to-ceiling windows. His cologne, expensive, cedar and bergamot, filling the space between them. The Seoul skyline glittered like broken glass behind him. His Patek Philippe watch caught the afternoon light. Her cheap H&M dress looked paper-thin next to his Tom Ford suit. Cold marble desk beneath her palms. Contract paper crisp between her trembling fingers as she signed away 2 years of her life. Her hands shook. His didn't. You understand the terms. Public appearances only. My bedroom is off limits. Perfect. So is mine. What she didn't know, Min-jun Park wasn't hiding because he was gay. He was demisexual. 29 years without feeling desire for anyone. Not women, not men, no one. His parents thought therapy could fix him. Doctors said he was broken. He'd given up hoping he was normal. And then Sara Thompson walked into his office, art student with paint-stained fingers and opinions about Rothko, and for the first time in his life, his body responded to someone. That terrified him more than any bullet ever could. 3 weeks after the wedding, their first charity gala. You know, for a man who supposedly doesn't like women, you're staring pretty hard. I'm memorizing your face, for consistency. Right, consistency. That why your hand's shaking? His jaw clenched. No one talked to him like this. Ever. His bodyguards tensed, waiting for the order. But something in his chest, unfamiliar, dangerous, sparked alive for the first time in 29 years. Everyone thought this was a simple arrangement. Fake marriage, class divide, Korean tradition meets American chaos. They were wrong. This is the story of a woman who accidentally made a man feel human. A man who'd spent 29 years thinking he was incapable of desire. And the night everything they thought they knew exploded in bullets and blood. You're about to witness obsession disguised as indifference, mockery that becomes foreplay, and a love so dangerous, rival mafia families would kill to destroy it. Drop a comment. Have you ever felt invisible to someone you wanted? Because what happens next? She makes him see everything. Subscribe so you catch every twist. This story only gets more dangerous. Let me take you back. The day of the wedding. Sara's cramped studio apartment in a forgotten corner of Seoul. Medical bills covering every surface of her desk. $847,000 in debt. A photo of her mother in a hospital bed, the only decoration on the walls. Mom's chemo cost more than most people's houses. I'd sold everything. My paintings, my dignity, my pride. This contract was my last option. Marry a stranger, smile for cameras, survive. Before this, 3 jobs: coffee shop barista at dawn, gallery assistant by afternoon, night janitor when the city slept. Student loans? $127,000. Still climbing. Her art professor's words echoed in her head. Sara, you have talent, but talent doesn't pay hospital bills. She wasn't selling herself. She was buying her mother's life. But Sara Thompson wasn't just a desperate art student clinging to survival. She was Stanford's youngest graduate, double major, art history and psychology. She could read people the way others read books. She'd curated 2 exhibitions before she was 23, written for Art Forum, turned down positions at the Met, not because she wasn't good enough, but because her mother needed her more. She noticed everything: micro-expressions, body language, the way Min-jun's pupils dilated when she entered a room, the way his breathing changed when she spoke. She saw what everyone else missed. Week 2 of the marriage, Sara was exploring the penthouse, trying to make this cold palace feel like something other than a prison. Min-jun's study, mahogany desk, locked drawer. She shouldn't have looked, but she did. Medical files. Not for diseases, for dysfunction. Prescriptions never filled. Therapy notes, dozens of them, all marked, "Patient refuses treatment." She didn't know it yet, but those files would explain everything. Why he flinched when she touched his shoulder. Why he avoided eye contact. Why the most feared man in Seoul's underworld seemed terrified of his own wife. That locked drawer held the key to understanding the man behind the mask. Their first public appearance as a married couple. Cameras flashing, reporters shouting questions. Min-jun reached for her hands, for the cameras, but his hand trembled, violently. You okay? He pulled away like she'd burned him. Don't touch me unless cameras are watching. Right. Business only. Why did that hurt? But she'd felt his pulse racing under her fingertips, seen sweat beading on his temple despite the air conditioning. That wasn't disgust. That was something else entirely. Month 3. Sara came home early from the gallery. Voices drifted from Min-jun's study. His, and another man's. She shouldn't have listened, but her hand pressed against the door anyway. Mr. Park, it's not physical. Your body functions normally. It's psychological. Without emotional connection, arousal simply doesn't happen for you. Silence. Then Min-jun's voice, broken in a way she'd never heard. So I'm broken. You're demisexual. It's a spectrum. I need what I'll never have. Got it. Sara's hand froze on the door, heart pounding in her throat. Oh God, he's not gay. He's just never felt it. With anyone. That evening, she found him in his office. Sunset bleeding through floor-to-ceiling windows. Golden light painting long shadows across his face. Another charity gala? She lounged against the doorframe, watching him straighten his Tom Ford tie. You'll pretend to find me attractive. His voice was flat, eyes never leaving the mirror. Maybe because this whole thing is unconvincing. The ruthless Korean Mafia boss who's secretly gay. It's like a bad romance novel. He moved, fast. One moment across the room, the next his hand braced against the wall beside her head, his body inches from hers. You think this is fiction? His voice dropped to a whisper that raised every hair on her neck. You think I'm playing a role? Her heart hammered. In 3 months, he'd never been this close. I think you're terrified. Terrified of what your family would do if they knew the truth. Terrified of losing power. Terrified of what, Sara? The way he said her name, like he was tasting wine for the first time. Like it was something precious and dangerous. Heat shot down her spine. Of being yourself, she whispered. His heart raced, not from anger, from proximity. Her perfume, jasmine and paint thinner, art and life mixed together, filled his lungs like oxygen he'd been deprived of for 29 years. For the first time since he could remember, his body woke up. Heat pooling low in his abdomen. Unfamiliar. Terrifying. Real. He stared at her. 7 seconds. Frozen. She felt it. The shift. His pupils dilating. His breathing changing. The air between them crackling with something neither of them understood. Something in him cracked. Splintered. Broke open. He walked away. Abruptly. Desperately. Because if he stayed 1 more second, he'd do something that shattered the contract completely. Sara stood alone in his office, hand pressed to her racing heart. What just happened? She touched the wall where his hand had been, still warm. He looked at me like he wanted to devour me, like I was water and he'd been dying of thirst. But he's supposed to be... Her phone rang. His mother. The family dinner is tomorrow. Don't embarrass us. Cultural pressure. Family expectations. And now this new, dangerous awareness burning between them. Everything was about to get more complicated. Next morning, Sara made coffee in the kitchen she'd barely used. Footsteps. She turned. Min-jun stood in the doorway, disheveled, hair uncombed, still wearing yesterday's shirt. He never came to the kitchen. Ever. His chef prepared everything in a separate wing. But here he was, barefoot, vulnerable, human. You're up early. He stared at her like she was a puzzle he couldn't solve. I couldn't sleep. Busy night? I was thinking. He reached for the coffee pot at the same time she did. Their hands touched. He jerked back like she'd scalded him, but his eyes stayed on her. Hungry, confused, desperate for something he couldn't name. You know what's funny? Sara leaned against the counter, bold, testing. For a man who supposedly doesn't like women, you've been staring at me a lot lately. I'm not... Yesterday, in your office, you looked at me like I was water and you'd been crawling through a desert for days. His jaw clenched. You're imagining things. She moved closer. Am I? Because your hands were shaking. Your pupils dilated. And unless I'm very wrong about biology, that wasn't fear. He was trapped. Counter behind him, her presence in front. Sara, it's okay to want things, Min-jun, even if you've never wanted them before. His ears burned red. No one had ever called him out like this. No one dared. And God help him, it was the most alive he'd ever felt. Visit number 3. A week later. Late night. He found her in her art studio, a separate wing of the penthouse he'd given her for space. I heard noise, wanted to check. She was painting, covered in acrylics, blues and golds streaking her arms. "It's 1 a.m. You checking on me or checking me out?" He couldn't look away from the paint on her collarbone. "I should go." But he didn't. He stayed 45 minutes, watching her create something from nothing, watching her come alive. Visit number 4. 3 days later. He canceled a meeting with Japanese investors. Unprecedented. His advisors panicked. Why? Sara had mentioned wanting to see cherry blossoms. He took her to a private garden. Just them. No bodyguards, no cameras, no contracts. A petal landed in her hair. He reached to remove it. His fingers lingered. "You're touching me. No cameras here." He realized, pulled back. "Sorry. I'm not." Visit number 5. The breaking point. Sara came home from the hospital, mascara running down her face, shoulders shaking. He found her on the balcony, against every rule, every boundary, every wall he'd built. He sat beside her, silent. "Mom's getting worse. The chemo's not working." His hand found her shoulder. For the first time, he touched her voluntarily, not for cameras, not for show, because he needed to. Her skin under his palm sent electricity through his entire body. Not sexual, deeper. Connection, need, protection, something primal and terrifying. He'd crossed enemy territory unarmed, faced down rival families with guns to his head, but sitting with his crying fake wife, that terrified him more than any bullet. Because this wasn't contract mandated. This wasn't business. This was real. His phone rang. His mother's name flashed on the screen. He answered on speaker. "Mother. The family wants to meet Sara's parents. Traditional dinner, next week." Sara's eyes widened in panic. "My mother's in the hospital. She can't." Min-jun's voice cut through. "Sara's mother is ill. We'll reschedule." Silence on the other end. Then, perhaps this marriage was a mistake. The threat hung in the air like smoke. His position in the family, his control of the faction. Everything depended on this marriage appearing legitimate. "I'm not just a contract anymore," Sara realized. "I'm a liability." "What happens if they find out?" she whispered after he hung up. He looked at her, something new burning in his eyes, something desperate. "Then we make sure they don't. Starting now, we share a bedroom." Her breath caught. This changed everything. Min-jun's family estate, traditional Korean dinner, 12 courses, ancient customs. Sara wore a borrowed hanbok. It didn't fit right. Felt like a costume on her skin. His mother's eyes scanned her, critical, cold, measuring and finding her lacking. The uncle, the rival for faction leadership, smiled like a shark. "American? How modern?" Cousins whispered in Korean. Sara didn't speak the language, couldn't defend herself. Traditional foods appeared. Sara didn't know the proper etiquette, which chopstick to use, how to bow, when to speak. "Can you even use chopsticks properly?" His mother's voice, sharp as a blade. Sara fumbled. "I'm learning." The uncle leaned back, satisfied. "Min-jun, surely you could have found someone more suitable." For the first time in his life, Min-jun contradicted his mother. "Sara is my wife. That makes her suitable." The table went silent. He'd never spoken against family, ever. His mother's eyes widened, surprised, reassessing. Later. Sara tried to reciprocate, cooked American comfort food in their penthouse kitchen, mac and cheese, Southern style. Her grandmother's recipe from Sunday dinners after church. Min-jun stared at the plate. He'd never eaten anything like it. His world was Michelin star Korean cuisine. Precision, art, perfection. Her world was soul food made with love. He took a bite, closed his eyes. "Tell me about this." She was surprised he cared. "My grandmother made it every Sunday, after church. It's home. It tastes like comfort." Silence. Then, "Teach me to make it." "You? Cook?" "I want to know your world." Kitchen, late night, cooking together. Her hands guiding his, cheese sauce bubbling on the stove. "In Korea, they see my name first. Park family. Mafia legacy. Expectations. Never just Min-jun. In America, they saw my skin first. Scholarship student. Broke. Foreign. Never just Sara." He stopped chopping, looked at her. Really looked. "You're the first person who looked at me and saw a person. You're the first person who asked what I wanted, not what I could provide." They were both invisible to their worlds, but seen by each other. He wiped cheese sauce from her cheek. Thoughtless, intimate, froze. "Sorry, I didn't..." She caught his hand. "Don't apologize for touching me like I'm human." His bodyguard burst through the door. "Sir, your uncle is asking questions about the marriage. He's hired an investigator." Min-jun's face hardened. "What kind of questions?" "Whether it's real. He says if the marriage is fake, you've deceived the family. Grounds for removal from leadership." The stakes just multiplied. Their fake marriage had to become convincingly real, or he lost everything. "What happens if they find out?" Sarah's voice was small. He looked at her, something new burning in his eyes, something that looked like fear and desire mixed together. "Then we make sure they don't. Starting now, we share a bedroom." Sarah's breath caught in her throat. This changed everything. Outside the penthouse, shadows moved in the darkness. Surveillance equipment. Binoculars focused on windows. His uncle's men. Watching. Waiting. He's with her constantly. Touches her when he thinks no one's looking. This doesn't look fake. Good. If he cares about her, we have leverage. The uncle's voice crackled through the phone. "The American girl, she's his weakness. Use her." Crosshairs focused on Sara through the bedroom window. In Min-jun's world, love isn't a gift. It's ammunition. Sara's weekly hospital visit. The parking garage echoed with her footsteps. She felt watched, sped up, heels clicking faster against concrete. A van screeched around the corner, blocked her path. 3 men, masks, guns drawn. "Get in the van, now." Sara ran, heels breaking, heart exploding in her chest. Bang! Concrete exploded beside her head. She screamed. Black SUV smashed into the van, metal screaming, glass shattering. Min-jun exited, gun raised, face murderous, lethal. "Touch her and you're dead." Bullets rained down, glass shattering, concrete cracking, chaos erupting. Min-jun shielded Sara's body with his own, took a bullet, grazed his shoulder, blood spreading across his white shirt. His men arrived. Rival faction retreated into the shadows. But the message was clear. She was the target now. Penthouse. Sara's hands shook as she pulled his jacket off. "You need a hospital." "No hospitals. Too many questions. You do it." "Min-jun." "Take off your shirt." He did. She saw everything. Scars crisscrossing his torso like a road map of violence. Old bullet wounds, burn marks, evidence of a life lived in warfare. "Your body's a war map," she whispered. Occupational hazard. Her hand steadied. She cleaned the wound, stitched him with careful, competent movements. He watched her face. Concentrated. Caring. Gentle despite the blood. His breathing changed. Not from pain. From her. Why didn't you go to your men? They're trained for this. 4 devastating words. Because I trust you. She taped the bandage. Her fingers lingered on his skin. He caught her hand, held it against his chest. His heart pounded under her palm, racing, alive. Feel that? That's new. You're the only person who's ever made my heart race like this. I thought I'd lost you. His voice cracked. In that parking garage. For 10 seconds, I thought. His hands shook. This man who faced bullets without flinching, trembling. I've never been afraid of dying. Bullets, knives, rivals, I've stared them all down. But watching you run from those guns, that terrified me. Min-jun, you asked why I'm terrified. This is why. Because caring about you makes me weak, vulnerable. And in my world, vulnerability gets people killed. She touched his face. He leaned into her palm like a starving man finally allowed to eat. Or it makes you human. 6 weeks after the attack, 2:47 a.m. Sara couldn't sleep. She found him in his study. Crime scene photos scattered across his desk. A teenager beaten so badly his own mother couldn't identify him. Min-jun, what is this? He didn't look up. That's Ji-woo, 16 years old, thrown out by his father for being gay. The Chongryong faction picked him up, used him, then threw him away like garbage in an alley. His hands trembled. First crack in his armor she'd ever seen. Everyone thinks I'm hiding because I'm ashamed. They're wrong. I'm hiding because the moment they know I'm different, I lose power. My uncle takes over, aligns with Chongryong. And kids like Ji-woo? They become commodities, products, things to be used and discarded. Sara's breath caught, understanding dawning. The charity galas, the women's shelters, the LGBTQ youth programs. All funded through my shell companies, $4.3 million last year alone. He laughed, bitter, broken. But sure, mock me for pretending to be straight. It's very funny. Sara sat beside him, reached for his hand without thinking. He flinched, but didn't pull away. I'm an asshole. You're honest? He stared at their joined hands like they were a puzzle. You're the first person who ever treated me like a regular person, not a weapon, not a disappointment, not something to fix, just a person. Something shifted in the air between them. Min-jun, when you said you needed a wife to satisfy your parents, was that the whole truth? His thumb brushed across her knuckles. Once. Twice. Deliberate. No. I needed time to figure out why I'd never wanted anyone, to prove to myself I wasn't broken, that something in me still worked. And then you walked into the interview. You looked at me like I was just a man, not a boss, not a reputation, not a name, just a man. You asked what kind of art I liked. Sara remembered. Rothko. They'd talked for 45 minutes about color theory and emotional impact. I thought if I kept you at arm's length, kept everything transactional, I could figure out why you were the first person who ever made me feel... He stopped, shoulders tight, terrified. Feel what? He looked at her, hunger, confusion, absolute terror burning in his eyes. Everything. The kiss happened so fast, neither knew who moved first. His hands in her hair, hers fisted in his shirt. 7 months of denial combusting into flames. He pulled back, breathing hard. I've never. She touched his face, gentle. I know. We can stop. That's the last thing I want. His laugh was shaky, vulnerable. But I need you to understand. 29 years thinking I was incapable of this. He swallowed hard. I need it to matter. I need you to matter. This can't be part of the contract. It's not. The contract was about pretending. This is terrifying. You said I was terrified of being myself. You were right. She kissed him again, softer this time. Then let's be terrified together. What happened next wasn't gentle or practiced. It was raw, overwhelming, desperate. 2 people discovering that the walls they'd built to protect themselves had become prisons instead. His hands memorized her body like prayer, moving like a man on fire, like the world might end if he stopped touching her. Every touch saying, I'm alive because of you. He buried his face in her neck, overwhelmed, trembling, not from exertion, from relief. 29 years of thinking he was broken, incomplete, less than human, and she'd made him whole. When she screamed his name, it wasn't triumph in his eyes. It was relief. Relief that he could feel this, that he was capable, that with her, he was finally completely human. Afterward, tangled in sheets, his head resting on her chest. I thought I was broken. His voice cracked. All those nights I believed I was half a man, incomplete, wrong. And then you. His dark eyes shimmered with tears he was too proud to let fall, his frame shaking, not from exhaustion, from overwhelming emotion. You gave me back everything. Sara, you healed me. She stroked his hair. You were never broken. You just hadn't found the right connection. I've found it now. He held her tighter. I'm never letting go. He traced patterns on her shoulder, gentle, thoughtful. The contract ends in 18 months. Her heart sank. I know. I want to renegotiate. She looked up. He was smiling, small, uncertain, absolutely devastating. New terms, no end date, no separate bedrooms, no pretending. His hand found hers, squeezed. And you can mock me whenever you want. Apparently I'm into that. She laughed until she cried. One condition. You tell your parents the truth. Not about being gay, about being you. About the shelters, the programs, everything you've built. They deserve to know who their son really is. He was quiet for a long time. That's terrifying. Good thing you're brave. He kissed her like she'd handed him permission to exist. 3 months later, family dinner, traditional setting, his parents, extended family. Min-jun stood. I need to tell you something. I'm not gay. I'm demisexual. I've never felt attraction without deep emotional connection. For 29 years, I thought I was broken. You paraded women before me. Men too. I tried. I couldn't force what wasn't there. I married Sara as a contract, but I fell in love with her because she saw me, just me. The charity work you think I do for appearances, it's real. $4.3 million last year to LGBTQ youth programs, women's shelters, abuse survivors. I hid it because I thought showing compassion made me weak, but Sara taught me that vulnerability is strength. His mother's tears fell. Why did you think you had to hide your heart from us? His father's voice was soft. We wanted you happy, not perfect. You've done more good than our entire family combined, son. We're proud. Remember those bullets at 2:47 a.m.? His uncle's last desperate attempt to take control. Back to that night. Min-jun on the floor, blood spreading across Italian marble. The truth? His uncle hired assassins the night Min-jun came out to the family. Thought killing him would give him control of the faction. He didn't account for Sara. She grabbed Min-jun's gun from the nightstand, fired back, killed one attacker. Her hand steady, her aim true, protected her husband. You saved my life. That's what wives do. Real ones. Police arrived, uncle arrested, faction secured. The contract bride became the Mafia queen. 6 months later, their shared bedroom. Sara's paintings on the walls, his traditional Korean art beside them. Her paint supplies mixed with his business papers. Morning light streaming through windows. Coffee brewing in the kitchen. How's this mac and cheese? She tasted it. Needs more cheese, obviously. He pulled her close. Everything needs more of you. Later, she leaned in the doorway while he worked. Another late night? What's wrong? Am I not distracting enough? His jaw tightened. That look in his eyes. Hunger, heat, love. You're extremely distracting. Come here. The tease became foreplay. The mockery became their love language. I learned something important. The most dangerous thing you can do to a man who spent his whole life being what everyone else needed is show him he's allowed to want something for himself. Even if what he wants is the mouthy art student who mocked him into falling in love. Their vow renewal ceremony. Real vows this time. Chosen, not contracted. You didn't fix me, Sara. You gave me permission to be myself. That's the greatest gift anyone's ever given me. Drop A if you believe vulnerability is strength. Have you ever felt invisible until someone really saw you? Tell us in the comments. Team love heals or team love complicates? Comment below. Who else just learned what demisexual means? You're not alone. If this story wrecked you, wait until you hear about the Korean CEO who discovered his arranged bride was actually a corporate spy sent to destroy him. But she made one mistake. She fell in love with her target. This channel is where broken becomes whole, where love transcends everything impossible. Subscribe so you never miss a story that makes you feel everything. And if you're still not subscribing, comment why. We want to know what you need from us.